Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. You'll be pleased to know there's very little of me this week. I have two great guests. Later in the show I'll be speaking to David Skillicorn, who's the general manager of a tour company, tour operator, called Prestige Holidays. I have a soft spot for Prestige Holidays. When I was a travel agent, they looked after my clients very well, and they looked after me too. They do look after travel agents. So I think they're a great company, but you're going to find out more about Prestige Holidays later on. My first guest, though, is Alex Graeme, and Alex is a tour guide in Devon. His company is Unique Devon Tours, and we're going to find out all about the tours that he does and also a hotel which he recommends. During the interviews, there's one or two words I slip up on. As always, there's always something I can't pronounce, and I thought this time we've been Devon, I'll be safe, but no, I still get one or two words wrong, and there'll be more about that later. So as I said, Alex is from Unique Devon Tours, and the first thing we're going to find out is who are Unique Devon Tours?
Unique Devon Tours, it was a company I established in 2013, and it's run and owned by me, and it's just myself. It's a tour guiding company that offers private tailor-made driver-guided tours of Devon and beyond to small groups of discerning travellers.
Why did you decide to start up?
Well, I actually came up with the idea when I was about 10 or 11 years old. Mm-hmm. My parents ran a bed and breakfast, and I used to help my mother in the mornings serving breakfast. And we had some nice gardens and at the property, and I used to give guided tours to normally the American guests who seemed to like that sort of thing. And at the time I thought, what a good idea it might be to become a tour guide one day, and it took me about 30 years, but in my early 40s I thought it was probably the right thing to do to suit me, and fortunately it does seem to suit who I am, and yes, I love doing it, so it seems to be going very well.
So you got there in the end, that's the important thing.
Yes.
You said Devon and beyond. What's beyond? Where is it?
Well, I obviously I'm based in pretty much centrally in Devon, so most of my tours take place in Devon, but I quite often go to Cornwall, Dorset, Somerset, and the surrounding counties, and there's a lot to see and do in those counties. I've even done 3 week-long tours up in Scotland, so I take people to wherever they want to go, and I always tell them if I'm not quite so confident about an area, but I know those places fairly well, so I'm very happy to do tours there.
You've already said that you did tours for American guests when you were at your parents' bed and breakfast, but when you decided to start up the business, what was the very first tour you did?
The very first tour I did, well, I had an English lady. She lived, I think, somewhere near Evesham, and she wanted to do a tour up onto Dartmoor, just a general day out on Dartmoor, really, enjoying the various aspects of it. But she couldn't actually get up there due to the lack of public transport. So she asked me to take her up there, and so we spent a day on Dartmoor, and it seemed to go very well. And 3 years later, we're still in touch, and she still, from time to time, likes my posts on Facebook. So it obviously went well.
It went well for you, but do you still offer that particular tour, or do you do something slightly similar?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do I call it my the ultimate Dartmoor experience. Mm-hmm. So we go up onto Dartmoor, and it's such an iconic and beautiful national park. So I do tend to spend a lot of time on Dartmoor with my guests. So I do that tour on a fairly regular basis, and I'm actually an ambassador for Visit Dartmoor, which is the official tourism body for the area. So I always enjoy taking people up there because it's somewhere that's very close to my heart.
I hear that it's easy to get lost there, so we really need somebody like you to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, I think, I don't tend to go too far off the beaten track, mostly because my guests don't ordinarily ask me to go for long hikes into the wilderness. But yeah, I think it's definitely a good place to have a guide. Partly because, yes, unless you drive your own car, it's very difficult to get up there, and there is actually so much to see and do there. People often tend to head to the busy sort of more obvious areas. But if you just get off the beaten track a bit, then you can get so much more out of the experience. And I obviously, part of my job is to tell people all about the history, the myths, the legends, and so yeah, I think hopefully I add a lot of value to people's experience of Dartmoor.
I was trying to imagine the scenery as you're describing it then. I need concrete around me. I'm one of these people who gets nervous if there's not enough concrete around.
Oh, I'm sure if you came on tour with me, you might find I've had people from New York who tell me they can only live in a city, but when they get to Dartmoor, they do start to reevaluate their situation.
I'll have to give it a go. You said your very first tour was one-on-one. Do you still do one-on-one tours, and what's the maximum you would have on one particular tour?
Yes, I do actually do quite a lot of one-on-one tours, quite often for ladies who are travelling alone and they like to have a tour guide because it helps them feel a bit more secure. But yes, I've done quite a few one-to-one tours. In my vehicle, I drive my own car, so I'm the driver guide. I can take up to 6 adults, but on occasion, if I get asked to do more, then we can hire a minibus or even a bus. The largest group I had was a group of 29 Americans earlier this year, so I don't tend to put a limit on my numbers, but I like to keep the numbers small if I can because it makes it a far more intimate, bespoke experience.
Yeah, I've been on tours where there have been like 29 people, and I've been on one where it's just been me and my wife when we've been in Africa, and the intimate stuff, you do learn a lot more, and it's more to your schedule, and you're not just going around like, okay, it's 2:15, let's look at this bit, right, 3:15, we'll look at this bit. So I think one-on-one and small groups is really good. You get much more out of it.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I had to, that was a decision I had to make when I was starting the business, what I was trying to create. And I really wanted to create a very special product, which would give me the opportunity to give people the very best experience. So I don't tend to mix groups. So when someone books me, they have me to themselves. So we don't have the sort of thing where you mix a group and then half the day is spent with people getting to know each other. And it's wonderful, really. We spend sort of 8.5, 9 hours in the car chatting away and seeing beautiful places, and hopefully they're learning a lot and seeing a lot of things they haven't seen before. So yes, the sort of one-to-one bespoke experience is definitely the way that I've found works for me and for my guests as well.
You're listening to The Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. Still to come on the show, we're going to be finding out about Prestige Holidays, a tour operator that's very travel agent friendly. At the moment I'm speaking to Alex Graeme. He runs Unique Devon Tours. And at the beginning of the show I mentioned I have trouble pronouncing words sometimes, but you know that anyway. And here's my first slip up. So instead of cutting it out of the edit, I just thought I'd leave it in. So we're now going to find out more about the different tours that Alex does down in Devon. One of the problems of having my own radio shows, there's always words that come up that I always struggle to pronounce. So I'm probably going to, sometimes people think, how can you struggle to pronounce this word? But I'm going to go for it anyway. Genealogy. I think I got that right. No?
No, genealogy.
Genealogy. See, I knew.
A lot of people say genealogy, but no, it's genealogy. I've checked that one out. So, but it doesn't matter too much. We know what you mean.
Yeah. Are these mainly for your American visitors, or do people from the UK take them as well?
No, they are mostly from, I would say actually, all for inbound tourists. So normally from the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, generally the English-speaking countries. But I have had some Mexican guests, and their ancestors came from North Devon. So he had I can't say his name, but his first name was Mexican. His surname was a very English name. So it was quite funny. But we had a lovely time in Devon with his family. So it was very interesting.
You chicken. Now there's me trying to pronounce a word and getting it wrong, and you wouldn't even try. That's just not fair.
Oh no, I could. Well, I could say his first name. It was Pablo, but I can't give away his name on air. He's a solicitor in Mexico, and he might come after me.
Yeah. No. Okay. I agree with him. Don't give me his full details out. Best not.
No.
I've looked at your website, obviously, and I've seen you do quite a few tours. What's involved in the Ghosts, Myths and Legends of Devon tour?
Okay, well, during that day we spend a day visiting some of Devon's most iconic haunted places. So places such as one of England's most haunted castles, a place called Bury Pomeroy Castle. Then after that we go to, again, one of England's most haunted inns, which is called the Church House Inn at Torbryan, which is a wonderful 800-year-old inn with many ghosts purportedly living there. Then we go along to a church, and that's a very intriguing church because it's one of a kind. It's the only one in Devon of its kind, and maybe I'll keep that to myself because it's when we go on tour, it's a nice surprise. But it's actually a church where there's a man buried who was the inspiration for the Hound of the Baskervilles. So it's a very interesting historical place with some very strong legends. So yes, it's a very full day, and then we go up onto Dartmoor, and of course Dartmoor is blessed with many myths and legends and hauntings. So there's plenty to see and do on that wonderful day out.
You say day out, do you not do anything like that in the evenings in the dark?
Well, I can do. I mean, I'm always open to, if people want to do something, I'll certainly try and do it. I think it was about 2 weeks ago that I took a group of scouts up onto Dartmoor. It was the day after Halloween, and we went to a couple of different places after dark, and I told them about the history and some of the legends. So yes, I'm very glad to do after dark tours if people like it. Certainly adds a bit of a different dimension to things, as long as we've got torches, of course. It gets very dark on Dartmoor. Have
you seen any ghosts or any images during the daytime tours? Anything that think, "Whoa, what's that"?
Not when I've been on tour. No, I mean I haven't myself. No, I've had a guest that was staying in the old inn that I've just told you about, and he came down for breakfast, and I was waiting to pick him and his family up on tour, and he told me he'd seen the ghost that night. So that was about the closest I've come to a ghostly experience. So, yeah, and he was convinced. There was no doubt in his mind. So
I believe him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We have to.
Looking at the website, you seem to do two types of tours. I've grouped them into two different ways. There's themed around activities or fiction, and there's tours of the landscape and history. What tends to be the most popular?